Okay guys, now on the topic of the Rolling Thunder, I'm going to share with you a very great thing for you to work with. First of all, if you did not know this, pull-ups are one of the primary upper body movements. They're one of the most important ones you can do. They move your body through a very important range of motion. Particular to modern life, we do all this work where our arms are here. We do not get enough of this shoulder extension here. The other thing is being able to pull your ass up that bar has been a marker of strength forever, and it still will continue to be, no matter how pathetic the rest of the world gets day to day. Now, adding the fat handle, especially the rotating collar to the pull-up, makes it very, very interesting. So we're going to have Kurt jump up and try a few reps. This will be fun because Kurt has never had a chance to try this movement before, and it makes a really big difference. So the first thing is you really can't bury your hands at all. You're going to have to grip up and really crush down and use your whole grip when you do this. So Kurt, how different does that feel to you than a normal ring pull-up?
Harder. A lot harder.
Quite a bit more challenging. You'll see, as soon as you start off something like this, you're going to notice a lot more wrist, forearm, elbow, the bicep coming into play, the upper back. You're going to be exerting a lot more force because you have to stabilize that handle. I particularly like this setup that I'm using here because this allows you to pronate and supinate and move your hands around as much as you need to. For some of you, the problem you have with your pull-ups is not you, it's the implement you're using. Not every person can comfortably hang onto a bar, either pronated or supinated. This type of setup is going to allow you to move your arms however they need to move during the pull. So in many ways it makes it very simple because the only thing you have to worry about is grab them up and go and move your arms however you need to. So this is a thing for a lot of you. This is going to save you a lot of pain with your shoulders and your elbows. Plus it's going to make you quite a bit stronger. Now what are some things you can do? What if you can't even do a pull-up yet? That is perfectly fine. So one of the first things Kurt could do is he could grab onto the handles and he could just start to lean. So he's starting to hang more and more. And as he gets more comfortable, he can start to lift up a leg. For some people, this may be their start at grip training, and there's nothing wrong with that. It may be a thing where you cannot yet hang. You can't even hold on. No big deal, okay? Just doing that is going to be loading your fingers, your thumb, your wrist. It's going to make your arms a lot stronger. In fact, this exact same thing is a great way to build up grip strength because it's oppositional to a deadlift. Kurt's arms being overhead is a very different position than his arms being down by his sides. So even if we could load Kurt with an amount of resistance far heavier than he could actually do a pull-up, and just him hanging could be a good thing for him to do that day. And this is something that I often do with my training, is I will set up these handles and perhaps I'll attach 150 pounds of plates or something, and I just grab on and I try to hang. All right, now that was the approach I used in my Mighty Mitts preparation, and I took 5th place out of the frame hold out of 10 guys. And so I outlifted other guys who were a lot bigger and stronger and heavier than me because I had specifically trained the event more. I took advantage of that one thing. This could work out quite well for a lot of you. The other thing is, it's going to give you more variation. Kurt can play around with more angles here. He can turn his palms more toward him. He can turn his palms away. He can do mixed grip where he turns one hand in one way. We could also get even crazier here because we could attach the handles to different points on the rack. And we can allow him to do things like exert different pulls and different pushing pressures. But Rolling Thunder pull-ups, see, there's a great variation. You see one hand neutral, one hand is supinating. This type of work will do so much for your training. And at the end of the day, it's not like, well, I'm doing grip training, it's isolation. This is a major movement. Here's what we know. If you do pull-ups, you're going to get a bigger, stronger upper body. Kurt, first impressions of this so far?
Love it. I want to get that.
Yeah, I like it. It's a lot of fun. So we're gonna actually go through a couple other variations of just some really, really common equipment that a lot of you have access to right now working from the pull-up bar. So that's coming up next. Okay guys, I'm gonna show you something that you have probably never seen done before unless you have seen my Industrial Strength Grip 2 DVD. What I've done is I've taken a strap and a clip and I've hung a 35-pound plate up from the pull-up bar. So this is going to give me a lot of different grip options. It's going to give me some very, very interesting grip options. So the first thing is I can use this for progressions for different types of pinches and pulls. So Kurt, let me have you come on over, and the first grip I want you to play with is going to be fingers go over this way. So this type of grip right here. And try a pull up right there. How's that feel?
Good.
So this is a level that a lot of you will be able to start off with right off the bat. If you can do a close grip pull up, you're going to be able to start there. Now it gets interesting. So now Kurt, let me have you bring your hands out to about the 3 and the 9 position.
Oh, right there?
Yep. And relax. Now what do you think of that one?
Significantly harder, but still good.
Significantly harder because you can still use the rim. Now we can go back and play the same game. Now just spin the plate for me. Same grip.
Spinner?
Yep. Much more challenging. So it's giving you a number of different options. And then if you'd like, spin it back towards me. Take more of a grip towards, say, 5 and 7 o'clock. Yep, very much like a rim grip. So there's another variation. And now, Kurt, spin it again. You can already see where this is going. This is moving Kurt towards the pinch pull-up. And then that may be too much right now, and that's fine. So this is a way for you guys to progress to the pinch pull-up. I've had a lot of people ask me, how did I do that? I'm going to tell you, this is not how. All right, what I did was way fucking harder at the time. I did not think to do this first. This would be the way that would work a lot better for most of you. We can, over time, work through all different variations. All right, now, the strap that I'm using to hold that up is nothing particularly special. It's a rated piece of very, very high strength nylon and cable. You could use other things. Here's the deal. I'm not responsible for what you do. Just keep that in mind. If you use piece of shit webbing, that's going to be your fault. You're going to get hurt. I recommend that you use webbing that is strong, very, very strong, so that nothing goes wrong. Just inspect the setup. Now, let's look at other combinations of stuff we can do. Let's combine two things. Kurt, we're just going to slide this one over for you. And we're going to slide this in. And now I want you to try some mixed grips. So one hand is on the Rolling Thunder, and then one hand is wherever you want to try it on the plate, and just try out a rep or two. Now what you see is this plate's going to spin. That is going to spin as he pulls it. So try out when you grip this time, flex in and put torsion on the plates. Yep, so make the plate turn a little bit as you pull on it. There we go. Very, very challenging dynamic. And he can work all different grips. Another thing he could do is try grip right off of the center hole. Yes. Very interesting. All right, he could try pinching it from the bottom, which effectively is moving Kurt towards a one-arm pull-up. He's not going to be able to pull that hard with his left arm right now. That's almost a one-arm pull-up right there. All right, so for some of you who are seeking to get closer to doing a one-arm pull-up, that's a great way to do it. You can only help yourself a little bit. The advantage is your helping hand is still getting its own dynamic load that is going to be very, very useful compared to some other methods people are using. All right, I don't know if it's necessarily better, but I do know it's different, and that difference could be better. What are other things we can do playing with this setup is I could sandwich two plates. You'd have to be careful, be smart about it. I could use different types of plates, all different shapes. For example, I have 35s in this room that have slots in them, and that would give me multiple handholds to use. I have other plates that are quite thick, and that would give a different rim. We have plates that are quite flat. We have plates that have very, very pronounced features inside of them. So the only limitation here is your imagination. This is something that gives you a lot of new options to play with. Now, one of the things I particularly like is that dynamic nature that these implements can move around more in the bar. That goes back into an earlier premise I had where I think a lot of people get hurt primarily because they're using implements that do not fit their body. This allows you to fit your body a lot better. We're going to go over one other variation that I really think a lot of you guys are going to benefit from. Okay guys, we're going to continue talking about how to build up more grip strength using different pull-up variations. And I'm going to show you three very, very simple variations. The first one is a vertical bar style pull-up. Now I've set up two different types of vertical bars for Kurt. One of them you can clearly see is a loading pin. The other one is a specialized handle that has a hook that I had constructed for this, but you could use two loading pins. So Kurt, go ahead and demo for us a loading pin, a vertical bar pull-up. Yep. Now you'll notice wrist position and hand position is completely different than a normal pull-up. That vertical handle position, very, very useful. You can also accomplish a lot using different towels and things like that. We could use lifting straps, and I'll throw a pair of those in. And Kurt, you want to go ahead and throw those on? So lifting straps is a really key thing. Yep, oh, just throw one up there for me now. And I'm about to show you a variation that I actually showed Kurt years ago that we're going to share with you guys now that I think is one of the greatest ways to build more hand strength using pull-ups. So let's have Kurt do a vertical bar combined with a lifting strap. Very, very tight grip in one, a wider grip in the other. And just give me one, much tougher. Let's try a rolling thunder with the lifting strap. Another variation, asymmetrical. There's a lot of benefit to this. Now, with your lifting straps, I want you to throw a pair of these in your bag. This is one of the best ways to build up a shitload of crushing hand strength. Taking this and just folding it over and then crushing down there. So let's try V-bar with the pliers. Now that is a very tough way to do a pull-up. So Kurt is crushing down on the pliers and pulling. You see here we keep setting up situations where one hand is doing something different than the other. This may look a little unconventional for some of you that are used to doing everything the same left and right all the time. I will tell you, if you will begin training like this, you will make faster progress. So these are some variations, and later on we're going to go over even more. But the big thing I want you to start thinking about is, how can I do one of the most productive exercises there is, a pull-up? How can I do it and get more out of my grip? These are some examples of that. Okay guys, I'm going to show you some of my things that I do quite a bit for my own training. We're going to show you some different variations, and the first thing we're going to use is we're going to use some kettlebells, and we're going to use them in a different way than you probably do. What we've done is we've taken two competition size bells, and the reason I like competition bells for this is one thing. They have a big body, but you can hang them easily because they're lightweight. So there's nothing special about the fact that these are 12-kilo bells other than they're really easy to get in and out of position. Now you can also use your iron bells that you have, you know, from Lifeline and Dragon Door and all those. You can still use those bells. In fact, there's an advantage to it because the bell size changes. But the big thing you have to be very careful with is just the weight. Be careful getting these things hung up. Make sure they're safe. What I hang them with here is these are a pair of the endless loops from Iron Mine. They're rated at like 3,000 pounds. They'll never break on me. You know, I inspect them quite a bit. They're not frayed. And then we just use two carabiners. Nothing complicated, but it's very secure. So make sure you're doing this safely. Now we're going to show you really quickly some very outstanding variations of the pull-up. Once again, my premise is the pull-up is one of the greatest upper body exercises. Someone who can do a lot of pull-ups a lot of different ways has a strong upper body, and that's what we want to get you. The first thing you could do is you could use a single bell and you could do different types of pull-ups. Let's talk about that progression right now. Okay, so we have Kurt set up here. He has a bell. It's all tied up nice and safe. Now the first progression is Kurt is going to put his hands where his hands are slightly interlaced on the top of that bell. And he's going to do a pull-up here for us. Now when he does this pull-up, he's creating inside pressure. He is horizontally adducting his arms with pressure this way, and he's using a lot of his fingers and his wrists to hang on to that. Now as he gets more comfortable with this, a progression he could do, all right, of course he can add weight and with a belt and he can do more reps, but another way he can make progress is he can begin to move his hands out to the side a little bit. So he may line up here and his middle fingers are touching but no other fingers. So this creates an even more substantial grip challenge for him. And he could keep going out farther and farther if you wanted. This is one of my favorite ways to do it, is where you're clamping on the side of the bell and you do your reps there. Very, very tough. It's building a lot of that inside pressure through the arms and the chest. It's allowing you to get more of your pectorals and shoulders in a workout here. This will make you very strong. Now let's look at some variations we can do when we hang up two bells, which is my favorite way to play with this. Now the first variation we can do is in itself very hard to do. Kurt is going to place a hand on each bell in that top position. Now this is making it very hard for him to grab onto, and he can do a pull-up right here. So he has to really use everything he's got through his fingers and his wrist. Now this is not a huge range of motion because of the shape of the bells, but that's okay because Kurt does all kinds of different pull-ups. This is not the only one that he does. Now let's look at some of the ones that I think you guys have never seen before, because I've never shown these and I've never seen anyone else show these. What we can do is Kurt can grab onto the side of the horn right there. So he's grabbing at the vertical part of the handles, and he can do a set of pull-ups there. Now this allows him an amazing amount of freedom and a huge range of motion during his pull-up reps. So you can see that Kurt can get his hands all the way down to his armpits. This is going to help those of you who want to get better at doing things like muscle ups and different progressions while allowing your hands to turn over. It's turning that set of kettlebells into a set of rings. Even more interesting though is he can continue to pull the bells down, and he can grab across the top of the square of the bell. Now he really has an interesting set of handles because he has to leverage it with his wrist too. This is going to make the entire hand and wrist very, very strong, as well as for a lot of you giving you a more pain-free option for pull-ups, because he can adjust the leverage however he needs to make his elbows or his shoulders feel better. Another way he could do this is he could incorporate other variations of pull-ups. So a basic one is Kurt could put one hand on the pull-up bar. He could put one hand on the bell. Now this is going to make it to where he's effectively doing most of the work on one side. Now watch that elbow movement that's going on right there. He is able to turn his hand in many directions this way throughout the pull. That is going to give him a lot more strength and a lot more potential for muscular development. There are particular feats of strength that people want to accomplish, and owning that range of motion and getting it stronger can be a huge advantage. Now other things he could do, he could grab both of the horns and do a pull-up with the, let's see, so let's set this one up like, try this right here. He could grab onto both the horns, which is going to have a leveraging effect through his wrists as he does his reps. Same thing, it's just giving us more options, moving the hand into different positions. And this is using an implement that I would bet that the majority of you guys have kettlebells. So this is a great thing for you to play with. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. This is just a couple of things to give you ideas. We could get bigger bells and go even wider in hand position. We could get smaller ones. All right, there's all kinds of different ways this one can be played out. And all it takes is just a little bit of creativity. So using pull-ups for, using kettlebells as a pull-up implement is an outstanding way for you to get more strength.